Hi, today I'd like to talk about the simple fact that the promise of equal justice under the law is currently on life support in the United States. The United States Court's website defines the rule of law as, and I'll quote, "Rule of law is a principle under which all persons, institutions, and entities are accountable to laws that are publicly promulgated, equally enforced, independently adjudicated, and consistent with the international human rights principles." The key item that I would like to address today is equally enforced. Equal enforcement under law is a phrase engraved on the front of the United States Supreme Court building in Washington, D.C. It is a societal ideal necessary for a citizen to believe in the American legal system. If this belief is compromised, then the American legal system will quickly corrode. The concept that all are equal under the law means that no one individual should be given special treatment under the law. The political elite and government bureaucrats should not be judged more leniently or not at all for a violation of the law. But what we have seen is a double standard of justice, one for the political elite and government bureaucrats, and a much harsher one for the remainder of the U.S. citizenry. Hillary Clinton knowingly maintained U.S. government secrets on an unauthorized computer server at an unauthorized location, a clear violation of 18 U.S.C. 793F, a federal law. Gross negligence, not intent, is all that is required to violate this law. The director of the FBI, James Comey, intentionally misapplied federal law to justify not referring Mrs. Clinton for prosecution. Mrs. Clinton was not prosecuted for breaking the law. You or I would have been prosecuted. A double standard of justice. Mr. James Comey, after being fired as director of the FBI, took government documents and gave them to a Columbia University law professor to leak to the New York Times. A clear violation of 18 U.S.C. 641, a federal law. Mr. Comey was not prosecuted for this by the Department of Justice, even though he admitted doing so in testimony before the U.S. Senate. You or I would have been prosecuted. A double standard of justice. Equal justice under the law is a promise that was given to U.S. citizens by the government. It is a linchpin to the foundation of the government. If it is removed, the foundation will crumble. The government's behavior has exposed deceit and corruption. The ultimate betrayal by a government is to knowingly deceive its citizens. The citizens expect and demand that the government will tell them the truth and keep its promises. This is based on well-founded standards of right and wrong that prescribe what humans ought to do in terms of rights, obligations, benefits to society, fairness, and specific values. Let's look at it ethically and morally. 1. The common good. The ethicist John Rawls has defined the common good as certain general conditions that are equally to everyone's advantage. The common good ensures that the social systems and institutions which we depend upon must operate in a manner that benefits all people. An example of a particular common good is a just and fair government that does not deceive its citizens. The common good does not just happen. It must be attained through cooperative effort. The common good is served when a government does not deceive its citizens in order to promote its own agenda or protect the elite. Deceiving the U.S. citizenry about equal justice does not serve the common good of either the government or its citizens. 2. Rights. A right is a justified claim on others. The justification of a claim is dependent on some standard acknowledged and accepted, not just by the claimant, but also society in general. Society embraces the right to have equal justice. The social cost of abandoning this right can only result in damage to the institutions and individuals honored with preserving this right, the executive branch and the judiciary. 3. Utilitarian. The utilitarian approach answers the question of what option will produce the most good and do the least harm. Utilitarianism is a moral principle that holds that the morally right course of action in any situation is the one that produces the greatest balance of benefits over harms for everyone affected. Deceiving the public never produces more good than harm. Defending the deceit by assuming that those who will be aware of the deceit are only a minor percentage of the population does even more harm. This behavior shows a disconnect from the populace and a lack of understanding of the consequences that will result. Therefore, the utilitarian approach would be to ensure equal justice for all is delivered as promised. 4. Justice and fairness. No idea in Western civilization has been more consistently linked to ethics and morality than the idea of justice. Justice means giving each individual what he or she deserves, or, in more traditional terms, giving each person his or her due. Justice and fairness are closely related terms that are often today used interchangeably. While justice usually has been used to reference a standard of rightness, fairness often has been used with regard to an ability to judge without reference to one's feelings or interests. Fairness also refers to the ability to make judgments that are not overly general, but are concrete and specific to a particular case. A double standard of justice is not justice. It is a lack of justice. It is not right. A double standard of justice is not fair. Again, every individual expects that their government leaders shall not deceive them. The demonstration of a double standard of justice by those in the FBI and the Department of Justice can only be described as the ultimate betrayal of its citizens by their government. The only way this may be mended is to prosecute those who have betrayed the American public. If they are not prosecuted, the government will be reinforcing the existence of a double standard of justice in the United States, something that the government will never recover from.